Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We're so excited about this topic and our amazing panel. We're really looking forward to learning a lot of really cool things today, which will be great. My name is Jane Davila. I'm the executive director of Metro Art Studios, and we're just thrilled to be doing this series in collaboration with the Cultural Alliance of Fairfield County. We have things planned out through pretty much next spring. So we definitely hope that you'll come back again. As you can see, Daniel is recording this today. The one that we did last month, which was on the topic of breaking through creative blocks, is now up on our YouTube channel. So all of the ones that we're able to tape when Daniel's available and we can grab him, they will be on our YouTube channel. It's just Metro Art Studios at YouTube. And you can subscribe to the channel so you make sure that you don't miss any of them. The website is almost done, and I'll be emailing the list when it is done that will have the resources after every month. So if somebody in the group mentions a book or something like that, we'll have a link to it so it's a little easier to find later, especially if you're having trouble hearing from one side of the room to the other. We do ask when you get to the point where you're asking questions of the panel that you speak up so that it can be heard by everybody and by the camera as well, of course. So yeah, welcome. We're just super thrilled. So David?
Yeah, David Green. I'm with the Cultural Alliance of Fairfield County, which for those who don't know is a coalition of some 300 cultural nonprofits and some 250 individual artists in our 15-town region, Greenwich to Shelton. It's as our members post their events onto the website, we are the single best source for knowing what's going on in arts and culture in our region. You can just go to our website, culturalalliancefc.org, and we send out a newsletter every Wednesday, the eBuzz, which lists the 15 best things you should see this week. And if you're interested, that's free. If you're interested as a member, for $50, you get your own webpage on our website. You get to post your own events. You get invitations to meetings that we organize and so on. So yeah, check out our website and our Instagram page. I'm thrilled that we've worked on this program together with Metro Art Studios. Jen and I have worked together, it seems, for eons.
Right.
And sort of this is the latest manifestation of just working together, and I'm thrilled that we're doing this together. So I think that's it for me.
Okay. So I'll introduce our panel and we'll just ask them to say a little bit about themselves and what they do, and then we'll hop into questions, okay? This is Meighan Morrison, and she's an artist. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm an artist. I'm up on the third floor here, and I mainly do very large abstract work, paintings. And I've been doing it full-time since about 2017. And I do work with a lot of designers and a lot of design firms. So.
And Dana?
And I'm Dana Ferraro. I am the principal designer of Molly Patton Design, located in Fairfield, Connecticut. Focused mostly on residential interiors, with projects based locally in Fairfield County and then beyond in the tri-state area.
I'm Diane Rath. My firm is the Rath Project. I'm the principal designer and owner. Dana and I are actually friends and almost neighbors. I focus on residential design as well, with a nod to colorful interiors and eclectic, colorful and eclectic interiors, as you can.
Yes, right.
Dressing the part.
So just as a little bit of a preface, so I know a lot of us as artists always consider that having a relationship with a gallery is the absolute be-all, end-all of the situation. But just to give you an idea, there are about 5,000 galleries in the United States. There are over 180,000 designers in the United States. So, there's a big difference there, and I think it can be a really good relationship for both designers and artists, and I think that's why we're all here, because we're just really kind of interested in finding out about that. We had also talked about art consultants for this for this series, but unfortunately our art consultant that we had invited was not available tonight. So just to give you an idea of what the difference is between a designer and a consultant, an interior designer designs spaces and often works art into those spaces. An art consultant sometimes works with designers to acquire art for a client and sometimes works directly with clients, and is often focused on expanding a collection of art as opposed to, simply is not the right word, as opposed to designing a room and the art in it. It's also often much more focused on monetary values rather than necessarily like whether it's beautiful or not and fits or not, or they're maybe balancing those two things, both the monetary value and the beauty of it. Because our consultants work with corporations for their collections, individuals for their collections, and designers, and with galleries. So, so luckily today we're focusing on the interior design side of it. So I wanted to ask Meighan first, for you working with a designer, what does an ideal relationship look like?
Ideally, there is, trust that a designer is coming to you for a reason because they hopefully like your work. And actually, I'll say the non-ideal designer is someone who comes to you and says, we want something that looks like this person's work, make that, or here's a picture, and we want this, but it has to match the couch. And so when you're working with designers, you have to expect a little bit of that, but you also have to know where to draw the line. And sometimes you don't work with designers if they're, want to do mostly that. You just have to sort of say, this isn't for me. And also depends, when I had first started doing this full time, I will admit there were some things I did not want to do. And I knew in my heart, I don't want to do this, but I had rent to pay and I did it. So, but it's not fun and you don't feel good about it if you don't feel like, if you feel like you're somehow milching from somebody else's work or, So anyway, sometimes, yes, you're an artist, you have to pay the rent. But hopefully, most of the time, or at some point you'll get beyond that and you're able to say, no. So your ideal designer is someone who comes to you because they want your work, not because they want you, they have an idea of the piece that they want. Yeah, and if you can have that kind of relationship with a designer, then it's wonderful, especially if they're coming to you with a request for a commission. Because it's extremely important to know that this client, designer, whoever it is, has some trust in you and will, let you do what you do. And, in a commission, the way I do it, I say, first of all, I take a 50% non-refundable deposit because you're still doing the work and they have to understand that. So if they're not comfortable with that, it weeds out a lot of people who are, not trusting you or not really interested in what you're doing. And then at the end, once I do it, I show them approval pics, I call them. And there's an opportunity to tweak things, and I'm certainly open to tweaking something, but if somebody wants an entire new painting, that's a problem. So it's really, there's got to be a meeting of the minds where they are interested in what you are doing and have a level of trust so that there's not disappointment all around, because that can get uncomfortable.
Have you ever been in a space where you think, no, this is not going to work?
Yeah.
Have you figured something out? Yeah.
Yeah, I have, and I just, you have to hopefully recognize that. Like I said, there will be times when maybe you do something where you regretted doing it. For me, I had one instance where someone came to me and really wanted me to do something just like this, and I didn't do it just like that, but I did it closer than I was comfortable with. And I thought, oh, okay, well, nobody will ever see it. It's just going to some, and then it shows up in a magazine. So be careful. Don't do things that are not sitting right with you, because it could come back. If it's not going to bite you, it'll make you feel bad. And Yeah, so you have to do what you have to do sometimes to pay the rent, but keep that in mind. So ideally, yeah, you want to respect each other, and you want to feel that you're respected by the designer. And then it's 99% of the time, it's a really happy experience.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off what Megan is saying is I think collaboration is kind of key in those moments as well, like both as creative individuals, the designer and the artist being creative. I think both have something equally exciting to bring to the table and their own vision. And so when those kind of visions merge, I think is when the best work happens.
Absolutely, and to make sure you ask, there's no harm in asking too many questions. You know, when you sometimes you're putting, somebody say, well, I like this painting that you did. I'm like, I'm fine jumping off my own work. In fact, that's what I suggest. I say, we want to commission, but none of your work is the right size. And usually it's, well, pick something that speaks to the client or whatever, one of my designs, and then we can jump off of that and kind of expand, rather than jumping off of someone else's work. And then working with the designer, because they have brilliant eyes, that's why they're designers. And so really it's the best of both worlds if, like I said, you can just trust each other and be patient with each other and always ask what size it is, like 5 times. Or you make the artwork, because that actually happens. Well, I thought it was going to be, I thought you said, and then you're in trouble, you know.
Yeah.
So, just you can't ask enough questions before you start working.
I was gonna say that designers, like, we see ourselves as artists too.
Yes.
You know, like, we're an artist in a different sense, but we still see ourselves as that. So if we can collaborate, like Dana was saying, I mean, that's like the best experience all around for our clients as well.
And you guys have so many moving parts. That's
Yes.
also, I mean, that's also, I try to keep in mind as an artist when I'm working with the designer, like, you'd have to be efficient, even though you can't ask too many questions. You can't drive them crazy because they've got a million moving parts that they're dealing with. I'm just dealing with this painting, you know. They're dealing with, you know, the sofa, the rug, the builder, the general contractor, their
All
client.
that project management.
Yeah. So you're trying to make their life easier, will ingratiate you with them, and they will come back. If you make them crazy, they don't have time for that. They really have a lot going on as designers.
Thank you for recognizing that.
I have a question for both of you. I'm really interested in how you build your knowledge or portfolio of artists that you can draw on. I'm sure there are several different ways that you build that.
Well, an establishment like this is amazing because you have so many different artists in one space that you can learn about. Yeah. Instagram,
So you go to galleries a lot?
galleries. I don't go to galleries a lot. I
No.
wouldn't say that, but like I love this kind of a space where it feels more creative. Like you're seeing the studios, you're seeing the artist's work, and you're able to really connect with them. You know, you're seeing the person. Because that's really important to me, at least. Like, I want to work with people who I like, and I hope they want to work with me too.
Yeah.
And when you just go to a gallery,
right.
you're not getting that. You know, you're missing that. So having that kind of connection is really important. We also find, like, we thrift a lot. You know, we find vintage pieces, and if we find something, we may look up the artist and try to discover more about that particular type of work and find art that way. And Instagram, obviously, is a huge,
I was just gonna
huge
say
part of,
Instagram. It's
Yeah.
like everyone's like
Her
everyone
nemesis.
hates to do it, but it's such a necessary business tool.
yeah.
Of just like easily getting your work out there and
Yeah.
getting eyeballs on your work. That's kind of, you know, where people don't have to get in their car and drive somewhere and be like, oh, I don't have the time to go look at that piece today. I really liked it, but so
And artists come to us as well.
Yeah.
So like people connect with us on social media and we can do a quick like search of their profile. And if it feels like something that we enjoy or something we could put into a project, then we'll meet, you know,
Yeah.
we'll go to you, they come to us. I know somebody who like had a little Mini Cooper and she shoved all of her work into the Mini Cooper and drove it over, and like we
Yeah.
just, you know, we just looked at
I think
things
that's
together,
the
so-
benefit of being local.
Yeah.
Is because you can, you know, take the art out on loan and test it in your client's home. Test different sizes to make sure you're getting the scale, like nailing it. And, you know, sometimes things like that happen where I've, you know, taken artwork out just to test out, and like I've fallen in love with a piece, but it wasn't the right size. So that's where like a commission starts to come into play. So it just starts to evolve, but having access to be able to physically get your hands on it locally is important.
Yeah.
So just to expand a little bit on Instagram, so are you using a search term? Are you, like, sometimes I call it a rabbit hole, like you find one and then you look at that and then you find another one and they just all connected somehow together, but
I personally don't search for it. It just kind of comes up. Like,
just comes up.
if I'm in my, no, seriously,
that
like,
doesn't
if you're
help
like,
us, Diane.
if you're liking things enough, all right, so if you're, like, let's say I'm admiring another designer's work and I find something beautiful about it, and then that leads me to, you know, this dining room, and then this living room, and then this, and I'm seeing, like, something is constantly coming up within all of those images, and it could be a piece of art or an artist, a type of art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you start to like, you find that, and then you start, you know, looking in more detail. But
Yeah.
I'm not typing on Instagram like abstract art, you know, that's not, I don't.
I think for me is it's typically a case of the artist being tagged in a design
Yeah,
that
that
I
helps.
find beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I kind of click on the artist, then I start scrolling through the feed and,
Right.
you know, clicking
Yeah.
through the link to the portfolio online is kind of how it starts to jump off.
Yeah, so tag yourself. That's,
Yeah.
I would also
Anything you
say
put out
if
there.
people, you know, Instagram, we all love to hate Instagram, but
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is so much work, so much connection comes from Instagram. People connecting with you, but, you know, getting that following is a slow going. It's, you know, it really takes, you just got to do it and try to be authentic and all, oh my God. But anyways.
And people do have direct access to the artist, like through, you know, DMing too. So
Right.
you
And that's
feel
what I
like
was
you're
gonna
having
say,
a
yeah.
conversation, and it.
But
there
as
is-
artists in here, you can get, like, what I started to do was, I knew some artists, because I used to work at a big furniture store, so I knew some local designers, so that was helpful. And when I started doing this full-time, though, and I realized Instagram was, you know, just so huge, like, I had to figure out Instagram. And, you know, I was no spring chicken when I first got on it either. But what I found was, find designers that have an aesthetic that will work with your
Yeah.
art, so you're not swimming upstream. Find those designers, and if you're starting out, it's ideal if they're local, they can come to your studio. So find them, the people who are doing things, you like their designs, you think the art that they're choosing is sort of along,
Yes.
something to do with your work, so you're gonna be a good fit. And then you can, I didn't always DM them, but I would sort of like posts that they've done with artwork and maybe comment on the artwork, like a few things, and without even telling them, I'm an artist, look at my work.
Right.
Often they would just click on you,
Yeah.
and they'd see your work, and then they would follow you, or they would inquire.
Yeah.
And if I found somebody I really liked, and I really thought, oh, I'd love to, you know, work with that designer, I would DM them, and I would say, look, I think we, you know, are on the same page here, I love your work, take a look at mine. Keep it brief, don't expect anything, because as I said, they're really busy, but that is a way, I used to, you know, troll through. I don't do it as much anymore, I probably should, but that's a really good way to start connecting with the design world, and making sure you're connecting with people that are on your same page. Also, you'll be able to figure out what level of design they're doing. Like, I wasn't looking for designers that are wanting to sell blue chip art and all that. I knew they weren't gonna want me, you know, I was looking for people who were gonna buy a painting that would be in price range of what I was. So I'm really trying to make it easy for the designers don't chase up the ones that want something more expensive or less expensive or more color or bigger, smaller. Try to make their lives easier, and that's what they like.
I recently built a relationship with an artist who sent me work based on projects that I had done. So she would say, "Oh, here's a few pieces that I just completed. They look like they could maybe fit into this living room that you've done, or this dining room that you've completed, or the kitchen." And she would just send me things that she thought would work in. And at first I was like, this is so annoying. Like, constantly like texting me, But she like won me over, and I ended up using a piece recently of hers. And I don't know, I found her endearing, and she was persistent. She was very persistent, and I appreciated that, I guess,
It's so interesting, like so much of life, it really is about relationships.
Yes, yeah.
Obviously about the art, but
Yeah.
the relationships are really important.
Yeah. Well, that's something I really value, and I value that with my clients as well. Like, I weed out the bad ones immediately because it's such an intimate relationship that you're going to have with them for a long period of time, that I don't want people that are going to bring us down. And I feel the same way when it comes to any of the artists, the vendors that we work with. I want it to be, and I know you feel the same way, like we want it to be people we enjoy, being around. Really.
Yeah, it's not transactional what we
Yeah.
do. Like,
Exactly.
we are in these people's homes and their lives. We know like what sports their kids play, like what time they get home from school. Like they're like deep rooted relationships. So, art is something that's personal, like and so personal, because we've gotten to know these families over the course of like months, sometimes years. So it's important to me when I'm sourcing art, like that there is significance behind the piece too.
Yeah.
So do you use consultants at all, ever? Sounds like they're...
I personally do not.
No.
I don't either.
Yeah. I've worked with clients sometimes where they have, and they say, oh, well, we have bought these pieces already through this art advisor. We don't have to use her for these other rooms, or if you want, we can use her. So they kind of leave it up to me. But yeah, sometimes, most recently, that's a situation I've newly encountered.
So in terms of ways that artists can contact you besides Instagram, and knowing how busy you are, phone calls are out, I know that one already. How do you feel about things like getting a really fast email from an artist with a website, getting something printed in the mail, like super old school, like a sell sheet or something with images of work? Like, do you have, like, yes, do this, don't do that, I won't look at this, I will look at that? Do you have any tips or advice for things like that?
I love a sell sheet. I had this photographer, Don Hamerman, who's in Norwalk. I love him. He's it's like just so colorful and vibrant and fun. He sent me, every now and then, he'll just send me sheets of his work, and sometimes he'll include like very small prints or photographs. And I love it because like I'm understanding how that's going to look, in a larger format. And I don't know, I'm more likely to purchase when I get those types of things. Because like you're feeling it, you're seeing it, you're like reacting to it, it's so different than getting something online.
And they're not expecting a response right away.
Right, yeah.
There's like no obligation to hit reply.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. What about you, Dana?
I'm more the email route, I would say. I always open the newsletters from artists that's like subject line being like new work. That always kind of intrigues me. So when I get those emails, I'm like, ooh, excited, because like when you click on it and you see what's available, you're like, oh, awesome, like there is the potential for me to actually buy this. A lot of times when you start scrolling, everything's shown, but it's like sold, 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 sold. And I understand why you guys do that. Like, you know, it's part of your portfolio and you're showing, you know, everything you've done. But like when it's new and it's like available, I think that's exciting for a designer to see.
Yeah.
And do you ever do that, Megan? Do you mail stuff or email?
I do, I'm very bad with this, I probably send it twice a year. But again, I always err on, don't bother them, you know, less is more. But I keep a Dropbox file of all of my current work that is available, not
Yes.
including sold work. So I keep a Dropbox file and I keep it current, I try to. So if individuals contact me and they say, oh, what's the price on this, or what have you got? I can send them a link to that Dropbox file. It's always current, it doesn't take long, they get what they want. Because I never put pricing on my website or on my Instagram. Someone needs to come and, so that Dropbox file, about twice a year, I'll do exactly that. Well, this is the other important thing, and I'm sure you all do it, but you get the opportunity in your Instagram bio to have a link. So you want that link to be your website. So people just click on that from Instagram, they go right to your website. And then on the first page of your website, you want to have a, would you like to join our mailing list? And then people, designers, whoever can just click into your mailing list. So once you've got them in your mailing list, then you can send out, again, I do 2 a year, but you can do whatever you're comfortable with. And it has all of my new available work, and I send it out saying new work, take a look, click on blah, blah, blah. And that really, you just don't know what you're gonna get. I did it recently, because I was like, geez, nothing's selling. And I thought, what's the matter? And I thought, I better send out one of those, you know, one of my newsletter things. So I sent one out, and a guy who followed me on Instagram, who I didn't know was following me, joined my list. It went out to him. He called and he said, or he emailed and he said, is this available? And I said, yes, and it just got sent to Hong Kong. So he's an architect, designer in Hong Kong. So it's, I mean, really, Instagram can be magic. You don't know who's looking at you or who's gone, you know, because I don't do any of that analytics stuff. I mean, I'm sure some people know a lot more than I do, but I don't even know how to do that. So yeah, I think it's important to, as an artist, have some way that you can quickly get people what they want. Because often a designer doesn't want to wait, you know, a week or 2 weeks. By then they've found something else or, you know, so you need to kind of have things ready to go. Again, it's kind of all about making their lives easier for them, I think is.
Megan, how big is your list? And
What's that?
how big is your list,
I
you
think
say, roughly?
yeah, I don't know, I think maybe I have somewhere between 300 and 500 on the list now. It's not huge, it's not enormous. I mean, my Instagram following is a lot larger than that, but again, if you just don't know who's looking at you when and what they might need and when you might get lucky. So.
I'm curious about commissioning versus buying. I mean, how often, what's the sort of ratio of when you, maybe a room is calling out for a certain kind of work and you don't exactly know it, but you'd like to commission a piece versus knowing a piece that would fit? What's the kind of balance between those two?
I tend to look for pieces that are already created. And I may not know the piece, but I'm like on a mission. You know, I'm on a hunt for something that's going to like feel right for that space.
So you'll know the range of Megan's work, for example, and
Yes.
you'll trust that you'll be able to find within that work what you want.
Right, yeah. And if it's not Megan, then it would be, I would probably look somewhere else, you know, for something else. I don't do commission work that often, honestly. What about you?
I think for me, I kind of start to go the commission route when a lot of time has gone by. That I've been hunting and I've been looking
Time's up,
Yeah.
and I haven't found it. And I was like, all right, it's time that we create something
Yeah.
that's just right.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more of a time factor or if there's a deadline. Like if there's a photo shoot scheduled and we need something like that has to go here, and like I said, I've been looking, can't find something. If I have enough time, you know, to do a commission to meet that deadline, that's kind of the avenue I'll go down. I never really start with commission though,
Right.
to answer that question.
Kind of last resort.
Yeah, yeah. Because you want something that the artist has already created, like it's been in their brain and it's out there in the universe and like it's waiting for somebody, you know,
Yes.
to use it. So I feel like when you're commissioning a piece, you're almost like, I don't know, doing a disservice to, I don't know, that's just my, like, I don't want to direct the piece. That's how I feel about it. I want the artist to have already made the piece and then like, it's like a perfect marriage, you know, like it just happens. So that's,
I find
that's
a lot
how I feel.
of my commission work is people will find something,
Yeah,
but it's not the right size.
right,
We need it smaller, we need it larger,
Right.
we need it
Yes.
whatever.
right.
And so basically, I'm just, you know, kind of making a version 2.
Recreate.
Yes, a time.
But
And as
then
long
is
as
that
it's my
true?
work that they want to bounce off, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. See, in my mind, like that's not truly like a commission piece because you're taking something that's already in existence and you're just changing the scale of it, maybe, or the size of it.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. So then every now and then I commission.
I have a question for you. Like, when people want to do that, kind of essentially duplicate a piece, is that less exciting for you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's less exciting, but in one way, it's less exciting creatively, but it's very exciting financially.
Great answer.
Because I'm like, oh, good, you know, I can do that, and, and generally, if they want something fairly close to something else you've done, but we're tweaking the size or tweaking a few things,
Yeah.
you know, there's not a giant risk factor, you're not
Yes.
reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
And it can be fun to do
Yeah.
version 2, if you think of Monet's haystacks and all of those, I mean.
So they're
it's-
not exact.
No, they're not exact. They'll never be exact. In fact, I make it very explicit when I'm sending out my invoice. Like, this is not a duplicate. This is going to be a unique piece of art.
Yeah.
You know, it will have the same materials, the same, you know, spirit, but it's going to be different.
I
And most
actually,
people are like that.
yeah.
Yes.
This just happened to me, where I fell in love with a piece of art. The size was off, and I basically asked the artist to commission a piece as closely as possible to the piece I fell in love with, just amped up in size. So, size and time, I guess, is.
And
And I'm just
they said yes? Did they say yes?
They did say
Oh,
yes.
good, okay.
Yeah, they said yes. But that's why I asked Megan, is that still exciting? Because you want the artist
Yeah.
to be excited for
It
it.
is still exciting.
Okay.
Because it's, like I said, it's fun to do a version 2. It's always
Yeah.
going to be different.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just talking in the car about how we, as designers, like we don't like to use the same things. Like we do use the same materials. Like I just use the yellow tile on a kitchen that I use in the bathroom, but it's always different in the approach. But we hate using the same wallpapers and the exact same fabrics because it feels so repetitive,
Yeah.
you know, and like you want it to
Yeah.
to feel fresh and feel different. So
Yeah.
yeah. But every now and then you have to make money, right?
It is a business at the end of the day.
In your practice, do you find that there are sizes or mediums or colors or styles that are more appealing or that you tend to use more? Do you use more figurative work, more abstract work, more large scale, more small scale? Is there anything that you find that's kind of in common that is like a sweet spot, I guess?
I don't know. There's so many different.
Yeah.
Whatever like works in the
I feel like
in that
everyone
particular
likes,
project, right?
Yeah, I in general, I feel like people enjoy abstract art.
Yeah. I
As-
use less of that. I use less abstract. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of like something as a designer that's kind of easier to sell,
Yeah.
for lack of a better
Yeah.
term.
I mean, pop art, I feel like is always popular. You know, landscapes, like you can fit a beautiful landscape in, even to the most modern interior. You can fit that in. It suddenly feels eclectic and collected. Still lifes are always
Yeah.
kind of cool. Like I love it.
I feel like I'm always buying still lifes at flea markets. So, still lifes, landscapes, like quirky portraits,
Yeah.
are just some of the things that I'm personally drawn
Yeah.
to. And if the price is right, I'll always just
Yeah.
pick it up and hoard it and hope to use it in a project at some point.
Yep.
Sometimes I have to cut myself off
Yeah,
from.
same. I'm looking at these pieces here and I'm thinking how incredible they would be
Yeah.
Yeah.
somewhere.
Really.
I mean, this is not the norm, you know, this isn't
Yeah.
what people typically go for, but putting like that in, oh my God, that would
Yeah.
be, that would
Yeah.
just make a room,
Right.
you know, so.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know, and
It's incredible.
I think anything could,
So I'm curious whether you work with institutions at all, like hospitals or office buildings, or
No.
you're strictly
we're residential,
Domestic,
yeah.
some commercial projects are smaller, you know, smaller
Uh-huh.
scale. I always feel sad when I go into hospitals or banks and like you see that art, you know, like those prints that are just awful, you know, you
like
want.
hotels. Yeah.
Yeah,
hotel.
I mean,
Most
hotels are getting
hotels.
better. They're getting
think-
better,
yeah.
right? Like,
Depends on what hotel.
that's what I'm telling you.
Megan, do you have any pieces in any?
Yeah, I
Institutions.
have a bunch of work in
So you-
Stanford Hospital.
Well, I want to go to Stanford Hospital.
The new Stanford Hospital, I don't know what the difference is.
Do you feel like now institutions like that are reaching out to artists more, like for
Well, this came
original
through a
work?
consultant that
Oh,
I'd never
okay.
met, and it was quite a while ago, I don't remember how she got in touch with me.
Yeah.
But I don't get a lot of that, a little bit, I did, some big New York, it was like a famous building that they redid, because it was very old. And I did some work for like their common spaces, so that was.
I guess the really
Yeah.
good thing is that you know that many more people are going to see it. It's not just like
Exactly,
5 or
make
6
sure you
people.
sign your
It's going
work.
to be hundreds of people. See it.
But I don't get a whole lot of it, I would like to.
Yeah.
I think it's, fun to have your work, somewhere where it's public.
I think that would be nice for more places like that
Yeah,
to use artists to put their work into those spaces. I would certainly want to go to them more.
What would be, this is for everybody, what would be the one thing that would make you not want to work with either an artist or a designer again? Like, what's your big red flag?
Personality and really personality. Like if you're going to be a diva,
Yeah. I was gonna say ego, so that's kind of along the same line.
Yeah.
You want to feel comfortable, like
Yeah.
like I was saying, like especially if you're creating something, that it's a collaborative process and it should be fun.
Yep.
What's your red flag?
oh, wow, there's so many. One of them would be price, when I told them
Yeah.
what price my work is, and they just want to completely lowball you. I'm happy to do some discounts, some places, but I also work with the trade, so I have a discount for the trade.
Yeah.
So I have to respect my trade clients, I can't give everyone trade pricing, but when people really do not want to pay you what your going rate is, if nobody wants to pay you your going rate, there's something wrong with your going rate. But, if generally you're getting those prices and somebody always doesn't want to,
Yeah. Then it's not worth it, I feel like. Really.
No, and you can't
They
do it
don't
because.
value your
You
talent.
need to- I think
Exactly.
it's very important to be consistent with your pricing, because you don't want this designer talking to that designer's client, and finding out you've given them prices all over the map.
Right?
People want to be able to feel that,
The trust.
exactly. And that's like what, also people will try to undercut galleries. If I have something at a gallery, I'm splitting it generally with a gallery. It's generally a 50-50 split. So if someone will go into a gallery and see your work, and then they'll get in touch with me on the sly, and they'll say, oh, I saw your work in this gallery, so I'd like it, what's my price directly from you? And I said, it's the same price as the gallery, because again, you don't want to undercut your galleries,
Right.
because then they're like, what are you doing? Like, you're taking,
Yeah.
so, you know, you want to be consistent with your pricing. You can give a trade discount, but you can't undercut your galleries, and, yeah, and it's difficult sometimes, because, you know, you want the work, you want the project, but sometimes you have to let it go, for those reasons. And in the end, it's worth it, because you don't want, get yourself in a pickle, and alienate, people who have previously bought from you, and,
I actually had the same question about pricing for you guys in terms of whether you tend to work in a certain range, whether you, does it depend totally on the client? Some clients are obviously in a higher,
Yeah, it really depends on the project and the client and what their investment is, what they have to invest in the overall project. What's left over sometimes, you know, it depends on where we start. If
Yeah.
we start with art, or if we start with
interesting,
if the
yeah.
art comes later, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's really across the board though in a project. So like you try to allocate the funds for
Yeah.
the entire design, but sometimes what happens is other things have to get cut back a little bit
Yeah.
because your investment
How
went
often do you
elsewhere.
start with the art? That's interesting.
Maybe like 30% of the time.
Really?
Yeah, because that will often help direct colors,
Yeah.
direct the feeling of the space. Not as often as not, you know,
Yeah.
starting with the art, but yeah, maybe like 30% of the time ish. Yeah, I think.
I feel like I start with the art only in scenarios where I inherit the art.
Oh. Yeah.
Where somebody comes to me and says, I have this piece already, I really want to work it into this room.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm sourcing the art, it usually comes like as I'm designing all the elements of the room.
See, sometimes will have seen something, and it may not be like a piece that we've purchased yet, but like I know that style or those colors are where I want to go with that project,
And you'll work it into the design plan.
and then
It's like the color
so I'm
palette or the
not buying
color.
it right away, you know, but it's like that's in my head, and like everything else is coming from that, and then eventually we do get a piece that's very similar, at least to it. Yeah. All depends.
So galleries tend to be kind of territorial about
Yeah.
their artists, and they do not like if the same artist is having a show, you know, in two different galleries in a location, or
Okay.
if you've got exclusive representation or something. Do designers kind of feel the same way? They're like, well, that's my artist, and I use that artist in my designs, or do you feel comfortable sharing artists with other designers?
Yeah.
That would never stop a relationship?
100%.
I would never.
That is good to know.
Never.
Yeah. I feel like if you find somebody's work who you're really passionate about, I feel like you're more likely to be like
Oh my
I'd send it to
gosh,
Diane and be like,
awesome.
check her out.
That's
Like,
great, yeah.
like
That's
her work's
good.
amazing. Check out her use of color. Like, you
Yeah.
know, things like
and you'll
that.
find the design world, like a logo design, it's very small. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And they go to the same events, and they talk.
Yeah,
so-
and for the most part, we all like each other, and we all share information and share resources. I'm not kidding about that. Like
Yeah.
a lot of us get together at dinners and events, but we also do like personal things with each other, and we share information. It's not like an exclusive community at all.
So it's more
very
collaborative
inclusive.
than competitive.
Yes, yes.
That's great to
Yeah.
hear.
That is
I mean,
good.
that's the word that we try to spread in the non-profit world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's better to collaborate. It's
Yeah.
you get more bang for your buck by collaborating than by competing and closing yourself off. So that's great to hear.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
plenty of work to go around for
Yeah.
everyone is how
Yeah.
I see it. And there's a creative fit for everyone too.
Yeah,
So
That's great.
yeah.
Just a question along those lines. When you're looking for artwork
does it need to be like framed and ready to go?
No,
Or it could be in any
Yeah.
like format?
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be framed. It would help if like you could help us with the framing.
I'm gonna go back to like
Not
my,
gonna stop us.
I'm gonna go back to my timeline, my timing factor. If it's framed and I need it quickly, amazing.
Yeah.
Like if I have to frame it, I just know I need to allocate like
Yeah.
X amount of weeks to
But it turns
to
out
getting
there's
it
a,
installed.
there's a framer that you put me in touch with. Is he still, oh, wait. What happened?
He passed away
No. When?
recently.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's really unexpected. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's not your
I
fault.
really brought that
Yeah,
down.
no, it's okay.
No, I will say on the framing end of
Yeah.
things though, most of my work is large stretched work, but I also do paper work, smaller paper pieces. I never frame them, ever, because I know it would be convenient. But every different designer wants a different mat, wants
Yeah.
a different frame, and, you know, with good reason, they've got different stuff going on with their designs. It's very expensive to frame, as anybody
Yeah.
will tell you. I just sell them like that, and they take them, and they go, and they do whatever they do with
Yeah.
them. And I found that anytime I ever tried to frame something, it ended up in my bedroom or something, because I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you are gonna frame it, I would say do it in a very simple frame.
Yes.
You know, so it can work within many different interiors. Like the more fancy you get with the frame, you know, the more specific you get, the
Or
less.
as like an artist too, like for paper pieces, like you can just like offer up your ideas and be
Yeah.
like, this would look, this like modern piece would look amazing in a vintage frame, like, or just, you know, kind of your interpretation of how you see it, like in
Yeah.
fruition.
Yeah.
Could also do that without actually spending the money to frame
You
it.
can represent it in a room setting that you actually can do like in a Photoshop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
and that's the beauty of working with designers is, as opposed to just individuals looking for art, sometimes they will come and they can't imagine it framed, and they have a really hard time. Designer comes in, she knows right away, or he knows, exactly how he wants to frame it. He knows how it's gonna look good or not look good, because they have the eye and they do it over and over all the time. So that's one thing that I like to say, you know,
Yeah.
take it and run, because
Yeah.
you're probably gonna frame it 10 times better than I will, even if I know where it's going, you know,
Yeah.
because that's not my forte.
Yeah.
as an artist.
And we can really easily do like a quick rendering of something, or like a quick mock-up, you know, so it's not.
And it's kind
It's
of
not
our
tricky.
job to sell the client on how it should be framed versus the artist's job
Yeah.
to sell, like, this is how the finished piece should look. Right.
I have a question.
Yep.
You were talking, Megan, you were talking about Instagram. Do you use Pinterest or do you look at Pinterest ever? Or it doesn't?
I do Pinterest. I still use Pinterest. I use Pinterest solely for my own creative purposes, though, to gather inspiration.
And I only use it when I ask clients to send me pictures of things that they're attracted to. Like, you know, so we can file
order on
away.
Pinterest or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
It's not really part of the
interestingly,
process.
I don't use Pinterest, but when I go into my website, because I do my own websites, so I'm able to update everything very quickly and all that, and it's just one of these like Wix programs, those cookie cutter ones. But I go in there and it tells me on this one screen where my traffic is coming from. And the most of my traffic is coming from Pinterest, and I don't have a Pinterest account. So I guess people go to your Instagram and they're pinning it from there. So I get twice as much traffic from Pinterest as I do Instagram, and I don't have an account there. So then I thought, maybe I should start a Pinterest account. But then I was like, why? It's working. Don't screw it up. So I think if you're
Yeah.
doing one, they hibernate to
Yeah, they
Yeah.
each other.
pollinate, yeah.
That's a great story, yeah.
When it comes to works on paper, like photography, do you have a feeling about plexis versus metal versus frames? Do you have,
Good question.
what do you
I
tend to go toward?
I love Plexi for photography personally.
to-
Yeah.
It's so clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love the look of that.
I love that
And-
look as well.
yeah.
But I love
I've never
frames
done
as
metal,
well.
to be
Never
honest.
done
Yeah, me neither.
Any reason?
No.
Oh, that's not true. I did do one little tiny piece. It was like the cutest little thing on metal. But it was just like a little accent piece. It
But you
wasn't
don't-
the star.
You don't have a
know?
reason why you haven't done it?
No, I think it's just the spaces. Maybe just haven't called for it. I'm not opposed to it, but I think if I have the choice between plexi or metal, I'm gonna go with the plexi probably. So,
This question over there.
How often are you placing three-dimensional work?
I mean, I personally own some. Not that often. Not that often. I mean, I love like a good wood sculpture, you know, on a wall. I'm thinking of one artist in particular who I adore. She's not local. And I just love her work and I love her. So I try to personally collect that kind of stuff. Our clients aren't, you know, they're not, I don't know, they don't really gravitate towards that. Unless it's something like an, I'll find like ceramic, like a sculptural kind of a thing that we'll hang, maybe like in a gallery wall, but it's not really, it's not the first thing that
are you talking more like wall art?
yeah, I'm picturing wall sculptures.
I'm
Is that
talking any sort of three-dimensional
Okay.
sculpture, like a sculpture.
any kind of sculpture?
Yeah, my clients, it's mostly wall art for me.
Yeah.
I know, it's so boring. It's a boring answer. But like, it's just a harder sell, truthfully. You know, people, like, you know, they hire us, right, to push them outside their comfort zone. And yeah, so they're like, you know, sometimes we just like hit our limits.
Yeah.
And there's some battles that you just are like, I gotta throw in the towel, like I'm never gonna win this one. So,
I think like we could get, if we're like curating a collection, you know, then maybe we can get some in there, like a little, like a grouping of something somewhere. Like we can get 3D items that way. But it's not, I'm also picturing like large works. That's not usually what our clients are going for, not right now. Yeah, yes.
Did you ever consider using AI generated art?
Oh, God.
I don't, how does that work?
Just
That
go
sounds
Insta-
so
Instagram and Google or
complicated. But what do you mean? Like, how do you put,
It's artificially intelligent generated artwork that grabs
The computer,
information.
oh, generated
Yeah.
artwork,
Make a
okay.
flower, make
Because
it
that's exploded as of today.
oh, see, that takes, there's nothing personal about that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, it adds no value to me personally.
I love you. Thank you.
Yeah, like there's no story. Like, you know, I feel like art, like a lot of times it's handed down. I have so many clients who are like, my grandmother painted this, and they want to put it in their daughter's room because there's significance, like things like that. Like something like that, just
Yeah.
there's nowhere for it to go after it's on your wall.
So it's always originals that you work with. It's not like
No.
prints or.
I do prints.
Yeah.
We're both guilty of doing some prints.
Yeah, sometimes honestly, it's typically a budget factor.
And
Yep.
it's less expensive. Okay.
Yeah,
that
when you
happens
just
to me.
need to
Okay.
fill a wall, or need to finish a project and need to get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sad to say, but
yeah,
it happens.
All right.
it does. Cool. And especially in like, in spaces.
Sculpture, wouldn't you have couples with young children would be very resistant to sculpture, I think.
Depends on the size. Like, that's what I was saying, like, people would go for like smaller pieces where you're kind of,
Like
it
in a
feels like more of a
bookcase.
collection, like in a bookcase, on a mantle, on top of a piano, like those kinds of things. And less likely to do a large sculpture that the kid could run into and, you know, go to the hospital later or break it. So yeah, we both represent young families. So yeah, that kind of stuff that's probably why it doesn't come up so often.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that what you're saying is correct. You guys probably work, you're Fairfield County, it's family oriented.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of the designers I've worked with do use sculpture. I think it really depends on the designer,
Yeah.
on the location, on the age and the money of the
Who's
client.
living in the
Exactly.
More,
Yeah.
more so in really modern, contemporary, maybe urban environments.
Yeah.
Don't lose hope, sculptors out there.
Yeah, no, and
There are
also
places where you work. You gotta
I
find the
see
right-
it work,
you know.
because I put it around my kids, and I just tell them, don't break it. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
it's my job as a parent to make sure that you don't break that thing. But our clients are not as easily convinced.
Do you feel like the appreciation value or potential appreciation value of artwork is something that you have to consider? Do clients ever ask about this? Like, is this going to be worth more later? Is this something I could sell later? I mean, maybe some of the Wall Street guys, but like, is that ever something that factors into it? Does it matter whether an artist is more well-known, just getting started? It's like, maybe it's a matter of the work works in your work.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the biggest determining factor, and the rest is not relevant.
I feel like that depends on the client, on the particular client. I mean, I'm thinking back to a project in Greenwich where they were very concerned about that. They wanted to make sure that the art would hold its value. And then at the same time, I have another client who was collecting from this Russian painter and getting these huge, huge pieces of works that were amazing. I mean, they were so great. But he was looking at it more as like, okay, this is an up-and-coming artist, and I love the works, and it fits into the project perfectly. Like, this house is insane. It's so cool. But he was thinking of it as an investment, but in a different kind of way. Like, I can get this now, and I'm not going to pay a ton of money for it, but I do feel like this is going to appreciate. So he like really went for it and collected a bunch from this person. And over, the last few years, it worked out for him. So, yeah. Yeah, so I really think it depends on
I'd
the
say it
client.
depends on the client
Yeah.
and their appreciation for fine art. Like
And finances too,
Yes.
right? Like there
Yeah.
are some people that just want it to look very beautiful, and then there are others that are. This guy in particular, he's in finance, so he's constantly thinking that way. Like.
So I guess you follow clients, but you stay with clients. Do you, or
Yeah.
most of them want?
We come back.
Do you know if they were selling work?
If they're selling that work.
Yeah. If they're selling work that you had got for them.
No, I have yet to have a client that has sold a piece of work
Yeah.
that they have in their collection.
Right.
They've acquired it and they've held on to it.
Right. So they
Yeah.
bought it for the
They bought it for themselves,
Yeah.
but some people want to know that it's going to hold its value in the event that they have to,
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
get rid of it or pass it down, or I don't know, maybe they have insurance on it. So there's all sorts of reasons why people do that.
Can I ask a question about prints? So the difference between prints that are like hand-printed editions that are
Yeah.
limited editions versus poster prints that
Yep.
are much cheaper, when you're talking about what clients would be interested in, is it, because there's the original painting, then there's the limited edition, then there's the poster print. So what do you think your clients, and what's your tendency, if they can't afford art, they would prefer a sort of large poster maybe, or in terms of the kinds of,
I think like limited edition prints are a
Yeah.
little bit more attractive to
Yeah.
clients than just like I don't know, like something that has thousands and thousands of.
Yeah, I think a limited edition, they're still feeling like they're getting something unique and
Yeah.
special, that there's a set number that's out in the universe and they're getting a piece of that.
Yeah.
And that's up to the artist to get that printed
Yeah.
and shipped to you.
Do you ever work with
either surface pattern design, like custom fabrics, custom wallpapers, or custom faux finishing. I have a very big, long portfolio of theatrical finishes and interior finishes, but I've never known how to. My brother builds McMansions, and he's the one who hires me all the time.
Yeah.
And then the theaters I work with directly, of course. But does that ever come up in homes where like a faux painting project, to do like one wall to a particular stone, or
Yeah.
to do custom designs for
Yeah.
curtains or fabrics?
Absolutely. Decorative finishes, yes, in terms of like, are you talking more like Venetian plasters, that kind of, all of them.
But a lot of faux, a lot of like faux stone, faux wire.
Yeah,
My brother had
A faux bois,
he had
yes.
an attic.
Yes.
The whole play space, the whole upstairs third floor was all done cherry with big bookcases and wood, except the steel fire door. And he probably said, make it look like all the finished cherry.
yeah,
You know, so it's just a very specific need for faux finishing.
yeah,
But that's.
Yeah, that comes out.
I don't know how to find other people who need that.
yeah. Definitely, designers
Yeah.
should be your ally there.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what's the price range? What is the cheapest painting that you've ever sold to a client or had a client interested in? And what was the most expensive?
Like $100 to, I don't know, even like $50. It depends on where I find it, you know, to
Yeah.
10,000. I don't know. That's not like, we're not talking like hundreds of thousands. Those
Yeah.
aren't the clients that are coming to me because I work with young families.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm probably in the same range.
Yeah,
I don't think I've had clients spend more than 10 on a painting.
yeah.
What's a sweet spot?
Probably like a couple thousand, I would say. People feel like it's important enough.
2 to 5.
Yeah, yeah. But they still feel like they're getting a deal, you know, in that range. That feels good to me too, like that 2 number for some reason. Like I'll look at a piece and I'm like, it's only $2,500. I don't know.
What tips do you have for artists in the way they design their website to make them attractive to your clients?
Put all the available pieces up front.
Make it easy to navigate.
Yeah.
Very easy to search. Make your homepage probably like your most exciting piece. It would be nice if you could have like a rotation of works on the homepage so people can quickly see.
Yeah. And if it's like if it's like hung in a room or over a sofa or something where we can quickly gauge scale.
Yeah, that's a great.
It's
Yeah.
helpful if
Yeah. we
we can't physically take the piece into the home. I think a way to gauge scale is important.
Yeah.
I would say as a web designer, contact information, make it easy to use and easy to find.
Yes.
A lot of people forget that, or it's buried, or it's hard, or.
Yeah. Yeah.
And leading from that, which is a great question, like what can artists do now to start getting ready to work with designers? Obviously work on the website. Everybody's now updating their price list mentally in their head based on what you just said. How much work would you like to be able to select from, like available? I mean, is it better to look at an artist who has 20 pieces available, or an artist who has 5 pieces available, or an artist who has 60 or more pieces available?
I think that like 20 sounds good. You don't want it to be so little that you feel like there's nothing to choose from, but you don't want to overwhelm anyone either, right? So you don't want like hundreds of works on your website, which is why I think it's important to take down some of those sold pieces. You can leave a few up there for your portfolio, but don't have them so many sold pieces. Like it's like, all right, well,
And I think
Great,
a good
sold all of these.
variation of the sizing
yeah, yeah.
is important.
How important is an artist's CV to you guys?
I don't care.
Okay.
CV, their like resume.
Oh.
You know, like what they've done and who they've worked with. I don't care. I personally don't care. I think if something looks good,
$2,500.
if I connect with it, then that's what matters.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being kind of new to thinking about selling art, so is there a different percentage that one has to work into your $2,000 sweet spot that you take as a, designer discount type of thing?
Yeah.
Is your fee structure?
Our design fee,
Yeah,
or
when you buy
like our
art.
markup? Oh, yeah, there's typically a like in my contracts with clients, just all goods
Across the
purchased across the board, not just with art. There is a we call it a purchasing fee, which is a markup, product
Yeah.
markup.
So it's the same no matter what.
You don't expect a discount from the artist.
We would love one.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah.
They want a trade discount.
Well, yes.
And that's what I'm asking, if you feel comfortable with giving us like a
I think-
percentage kind of
So-
highest level.
Oh, 20 to 40% is
Is what I'm
usually.
asking.
Yeah.
40%.
Yeah, I
Some
think-
designers charge 40%. Product markup.
No, trade
Oh, I
discount.
thought you meant the trade
Oh,
discount.
no.
No, so the trade discount we're
Talking-
typically expecting is 20 to 30%, because
Trade
our,
discount?
yes,
That's
because,
not what I give you.
because
then.
our markup is at least 20%. So in order for us to cover, like to,
But why
make
would we,
anything.
if you're gonna mark it up, why would we need to mark it way down?
because we need to make our 20% too. So if you're only marking down 10%, then we're not making our 20%. You know what I mean?
Do you ever just do a 50/50? I mean,
What do you mean by that, 50/50?
so if a piece retails.
Yes.
So the artist gives you the retail price, $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
You bought it from the artist for $1,000.
Yeah.
And now your
Then we
client-
only mark it up whatever we say we're gonna mark it up.
I don't
like
find that
20%.
ever, I have never come across that, just
What's
to
that,
let you know,
a 30%?
the way you're
Trade
working.
discount?
When I work with designers, they get a designer discount.
Right,
I used to give 20,
yeah,
and then down the line, I give 15.
Okay.
And that's the norm, that's what they expect,
that's your
maybe
set,
20.
that's
but
your set
15.
rate, but we all have our own set rate, so whatever you decide
Megan,
to,
are you saying
to offer, you
retail?
offer.
Off of retail, right, so if a designer comes to me,
Right.
and they ask me for my price list,
Yeah,
I give them retail pricing, and if I know it's a designer, I say in the correspondence, by the way, I do a 15% trade discount. No one's ever come and said, I want 30 or 40.
that's because that's what you set it at, and they like your work enough that they're willing to do 15%, so the designer's just
No.
making less on it, which is
I
okay, like we
think
make
it's kind of
concessions.
industry standard, it's approximately somewhere between 10 and 20% for a trade discount.
Okay,
What do you think?
So if you get 20% off the art,
Yeah.
do you mark it up more than what the artist,
No.
what the retail is?
No.
No.
And that's kind of where I was gonna chime in. So like Megan's discount's 15%. Like I always say to my clients, like the benefit of us handling all the purchasing is that you're always coming out ahead of retail, right? So ordering anything through the designer, you're gonna get a better price than a retail price.
Right.
So if Megan's discount is 15% and, then I will just adjust my product markup
Exactly.
from like sofas and, tables and rugs, and I will adjust it to accommodate Megan's discount. So instead of marking it up 25%, that I would mark up a sofa that I get at wholesale, I would mark up the painting then say 10%.
Exactly.
But you're not giving her the designer discount, so how is she
No.
coming out, how is she?
Because it's still 5% less.
It's 5% less than paying retail.
In this circumstance, where it's 15%, but if we got our, 30%, which is what I was saying, which is not the norm, I guess, 30%, then we can still do our 25% markup and still get them under the retail price.
So if they,
You know?
they were buying, let's just say it was a $2,000 retail.
Yeah,
So she's taking 15 off of that, which would put it at 1,700. The gallery would have sold it for 2,000, you're saying?
yeah,
And you're gonna mark it up, but
to like 19.
you're gonna just stay under. So you're gonna
Yes.
be conscious of
exactly.
what her buying from her, you're gonna know that retail price and you're gonna keep it under whatever that.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
and
the-
that's what we do across the board with all
Yeah.
of the things that we offer.
So the client feels that they're, you know, they're essentially getting they're getting a great price for an original, beautiful piece of work.
Why I ask, because as an artist, you know, you put your own price on based on your own instinct of what the value should be.
Yeah.
Without considering that people may not just be seeing it and purchasing it outright. So thank you for sharing that percentage, because it gives you a little knowledge ahead of time of-
Yeah.
Yeah,
in case in case professionals approach you.
yeah, yeah. And you can set your discount at anything you want. You can do 5% if you want. You know, that's totally up to you. You can do 40% if you want. It's totally up to you. It's what you see fair. And if the trade is willing to work with that, then great. You know, that's really, I mean, even in the design industry, there's a different markup, there's a different fee, there are different rates for every single designer. And if those clients are willing to pay it or not willing to pay it, that determines what clients you have.
And pricing is always the conversation that people tiptoe around, and there's never a perfect unicorn answer where like there, it just doesn't. You talk to 10 different designers, you're going to get 10 different answers on how they charge. And I'm sure same with the artists. You talk to 10 different artists, like you'll get.
Actually, I will have to devote, you know, a little bit, because I work with a lot of designers from all over the country and even overseas and locally. And they basically are expecting somewhere approximately 15-20%. That is a real industry norm, I find. I never, ever have a designer come and say, I want 40%.
I would never ask that. If
Or
you're
even
if you're-
30%.
Yeah, we wouldn't push back on it. If you say like
whatever you
this-
told me your pricing was,
or 15%, like that's what it is.
I guess what I'm just trying to say is, I think there is a standard, a norm, and I think that is it. You know, I think there may be occasional designers that do something different, but I think as an artist, and you're all local artists, I think you're safe to say 15 to 20%, whatever you're comfortable with, and no one's gonna say, what, too much, too little, that's, I would feel comfortable telling you all to start there. And then, you know, you may have your odd designer come in with a different game plan, but I think you're pretty safe there.
Yeah, but yeah, you guys don't have to concern yourself with what the designer is going to charge their client.
Don't worry about it.
That's our problem.
And even if you go to like, so the stores where the designers go, you know, a lot of these local retail stores, there'll be a design discount. And it's usually going to be somewhere between 10 and 20%.
That's why we don't shop at those stores.
A lot of them do.
I have a question about, okay, so let's say you like one of my paintings,
Yeah.
but it's been licensed.
Okay.
What do you do? Do you not buy the original? Do you not want the original because West Elm has it, or Harvard Bar has it, or so?
That's a good question.
So you just let that go, or?
I haven't
Because I
encountered that.
have to make money, I
Yeah.
have to do, you know, you plus those bags. You know, you have to.
Right.
So,
I mean, if it's
in my
out,
business.
right, if it's out there in mass, like licensing.
Go ahead, license.
Licensing. If a work is licensed, so like a large manufacturer has access to it and reproduces it, what would we as designers do in that scenario? Would we buy the original work or shy away from it?
Pass it up, yeah.
I feel like I probably wouldn't buy the original. I mean, if it's out there in mass, I would just get
So
it
as
from
an
Harvard
artist,
Bar,
I should
you know?
have 2 columns.
What's that?
I should have 2 columns. I should have,
I think so. I think that makes sense to have work that you're licensing to places like
Right.
that, and that's how you make your money
Right.
on those things. And then you have a separate, you know, maybe original art or works that,
right, separate.
yeah.
Well, I have some experience with that because I have licensed work to very large
Sorry.
retailers, anybody with household names.
Yeah.
And I had that same question in the beginning, and I almost didn't do it because I was worried about it. But I found, I just always tell people, if there's an original that I know has been licensed, and it might show up at your neighbor's,
Right.
over your neighbor's couch, I tell them. Occasionally, people aren't into that. Usually an older buyer, an older client does not understand that. The young kids, they think it's cool. So it's really, again, it really depends, and I would just say, always be honest.
Yes.
Always let them know. And again, usually the reaction isn't as negative as I thought it was gonna be. But again, come clean, be transparent, let people know, let them make their own decisions. But I haven't found that it was like a total disaster.
Like a turn off, right?
By any means.
Yeah, there is a circumstance I know of personally of an artist who sold the original of a piece to a gallery, who sold it to a client, and then sold reproductions, really fine quality giclées in this case that were numbered and, you know, all of the things, to a different gallery. And the first gallery wasn't aware of the fact that he was selling reproductions of the original work.
Well, that doesn't.
And then the reproduction was produced in a magazine. And so then the person who owned the original discovered that there were reproductions out in the world. He didn't do anything wrong.
No.
Because the artist owns the copyright and the artist can do whatever they want with it, right? You only right to make the reproductions forever unless you sell that right as well. But I think that the client wasn't educated in the fact that that was the artist's right and they could potentially do that if they wanted to. And then the artist had not informed the original gallery that they had made reproductions, and had not informed the second gallery that might not have been a great idea to have it published, although it should be published because, I mean, you want publicity.
Yeah,
right?
you have to tell people, and generally people are told, they're happy to have the information, and like I said, a lot of people think it's cool that they have the original,
Yeah.
when everybody else has some, you know, flimsier version of it.
Right.
Not everyone. A lot of people don't want something that says something in mass, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, just make sure it sits right with you and you're doing the right thing, and you know, there's no bad juju going around, come back to get you.
Charge more for the ones you don't want to reproduce.
Just, I have another question for you, Meighan. As far as like when you show, I know you have your Dropbox and you show stuff, and do you ever like password protect anything that you show out there? Like, are you ever afraid of, because you do license a little bit, like being copied?
Oh, they
or what?
copy you all the time. I find my stuff, I was looking at on Zillow, and my paintings are on top of the couch, you know, and I go to Redfin, and it's there too. So, and then I've had designers, you know, big design firms, take my work and paste it into their mock-up things, and then I'll see that. So, but my attitude was when I started Instagram, oh, well, you know, if you're gonna put your stuff out there, that is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I can't hire a lawyer every time I see something, so you have to take the good with the bad.
Thank you.
to get credit for your work in their products or no?
They're supposed to, they're not supposed to take my image, period, without.
Contact them and say,
Or-
can you at least put my name on it, or?
Or take it down.
What's that? Yeah, I mean, if it's easy, I'll get in touch. If it's a designer doing it, I'll get in touch and they'll take it down. But if it's like an Etsy company and they're making them in China or who knows what's going on, they just ignore you. So you have to just sort of get a thick skin, I think, because there's just not really that much you can do about a lot of, you know, unless you want to spend all your money on a lawyer and
No, it's
who's
crazy.
gonna
You
do
just
that?
make better work. You just got.
So, yeah, you kind of have to be a duck and let a lot of it roll
We
on.
will be doing.
Yeah, we'll be
a
doing
session
this.
On copyright.
Yeah,
And,
fantastic.
and we should point out that there is a volunteer lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
Lawyers for the Arts organization now in, well, it's actually in Massachusetts, but it's serving Connecticut. And Susan Fellinger over there has a story to tell about her work.
Yeah, and we'll have a lawyer who will actually talk about how you deal with it if someone is infringing on your copyright. So it's not, rather than just like generally how to protect your copyright, but what happens when it happens to you? What are the steps that you take and things like that?
Will they go over contracts too?
Not in this one, no.
That's another one.
I'm sure that you guys all recommend that there is a contract between the designer and the artist for commissions
Yeah.
and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
Absolutely. I've never used them.
You haven't?
I just send them an email saying it's a 50% non-refundable deposit.
Yeah.
I send them an invoice, and when I ask for the balance, I put on that invoice all sales final.
That's a contract, and same.
That is a
yeah.
contract.
It is a
Yeah.
contract?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a loose contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We do
It counts.
pull up.
It's in writing and it's trackable.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, this is awesome. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you so much to our panel. I want to-